Howdy again, fellow hunters, friends, outdoor enthusiasts. Welcome back to In the Wild Outdoors with Bren and Jesse. I'm co-host, singer-songwriter, big game hunter, and sometimes hunting guide Bren Hill from Hooper, Utah, here with co-host, bush pilot, hunting guide, horseman, owner and operator of Saddlehorn Outfitters, Jesse Tatman of Daniel, Wyoming, and we're back here to bring you stories and insight from the real West, and particularly the sphere of big game hunting. This is In the Wild Outdoors. Wow, Jesse, I'll tell you what, we are not going to top that last episode with Alesha Melton, but we are going to definitely tell the other half of this story, and man, what an honor it is. I have heard of this guy for years through you, through other friends of ours, folks who have ridden with him on movie sets. And, this is definitely what I would call a living legend. We have, I'm sure you don't like to hear that, but you are. We have the honor of interviewing a true American hero, a U.S. Army paratrooper ranger, mule skinner for the United States Cavalry. He's a war hero. He's a former pro bronc rider. He's a stunt rider in the movies. He's an outfitter and a cowpoke. And this is my friend, Randy Melton.
Hello, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for being
for
here.
having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Randy.
That's a heck of an introduction.
Well,
I'm going to have to get a bigger hat now.
Yeah. We only have to follow our best episode yet. So.
Yeah. That's like Gary McMahon said, who's going to follow that when he walked off the stage one time?
Yeah. Well, this is, you're married to this gal, so.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Pretty lucky guy.
Yeah. You're born in the Midwest. You're a Midwest boy. Come west.
I was born in Houston, Texas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Raised in southeast Missouri, but then started moving back and forth between Colorado and Missouri when I was young, all the way up until I got out of the Army the first time in '96, and I moved to Colorado after that. Mm-hmm. And then cowboyed all over Colorado, outfitted, and then went up to Idaho, kept punching cows up there for a Simplot, and then Iraq kicked off, and I enlisted again from Bruno, Idaho.
Yeah, from the Sheep Creek camp.
Yeah, sure enough. Yeah. It blew me away when I heard your song. That's like, wow.
So you were horseback at a pretty young age, and
I can't remember the first time I ever rode a horse. I was thinking about that a couple days ago, like trying to remember the first time. And the earliest memory I've got, I was like 3, that I remember riding, and my uncle and my dad and I, we were going to look at some horses that were at this place, and we went, and we had to go through a barbed wire fence, and I was a little kid, and I remember my dad pulling the wire apart, and he's like, pretend you're in the Army, like you're going through. And so I went through the barbed wire, and we went up, and 10 minutes later, we were bareback on this horse, and my dad says, we're riding double. He says, hold on to his mane. And I was like, I don't want to pull his hair. That's my earliest memory, I think. There's pictures of me younger than that on horses. I still remember it.
Yeah. So did your dad give you a love of that, or is that how that started?
My whole family, horses and mules.
Yeah.
It's part of life. I can't imagine life without them. I even found a way to make a living with horses in the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what, how did you get, you enlisted in the Army? You're a pretty young guy.
My first enlistment, I was 17 when I enlisted. And I just knew I was going to do that my whole life. I mean, it's kind of a family tradition on both sides of my family, serving. Yeah. And my son's serving today in my old battalion in the 82nd.
Wow. Yeah. Tell him thanks for us. So and that's the Army. You knew you wanted to be in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I knew I was going to be in the Army, and I knew I wanted to shoot stuff and blow stuff up and all that. And I went in a recruiting office, and he showed me this Ranger video. And I said, that's what I want to do right there, you know. And so I enlisted, went airborne, and did all the cool hula stuff, you know, and loved it. And then got out. I enlisted twice there. And then when I got out my last time, then I just went to cowboying full time after that till Iraq kicked off.
You remember the first time you jumped out of an airplane?
I sure do.
Where was that?
Fort Benning, Georgia. Fort Benning, Georgia. That's where airborne school is, and Ranger school, and the School of the Infantry.
Yeah, what was that like?
I had my eyes closed. No. It's a rush. It's a rush. Jumping in airborne school is really easy compared to jumping as a paratrooper in an infantry regiment. You know, in airborne school, you're not jumping with a 70 to 80 pound ruck and a machine gun under your arm, you know, and when you get out of airborne school, you're not a paratrooper yet. You're just qualified parachutist. And then you get to your unit and they're like, come here, Cherry. Pick up this and put it in your ruck, you know, and when you jump there, I was in the machine gun crew, and you just fall out of the airplane. Gravity does the rest.
Yeah. And the Army, you got out at 96?
The first enlistment, I got out in 96, and then went to cowboying, breaking colts, rodeoing all over the country. And when I was stationed in Fort Bragg, I was rodeoing out there, and a lot of people don't realize it, but there is a huge rodeo circuit on the East Coast. As a saddle bronc rider, it was almost not fair because I grew up riding broncs and rough colts and stuff, and a lot of those guys on the East Coast, they never got on a horse at a rodeo until they were entered in it, you know.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know, I played for the southernmost PRCA rodeo, which happens in Homestead, Florida.
Been there.
Yeah, you fly to to play that, I flew to Miami, which is culture shock, and then you drive down there to the top of the Keys, Florida Keys, and there's a rodeo, PRCA rodeo.
Sure enough.
And I mean, sure enough, cowpokes in that country, yeah.
And them crackers.
Yeah.
Them cracker country.
Yeah, they wanted to feed me gator tail.
It's good.
I never tried.
Oh, it's way good.
Yeah.
It's way good.
Yeah. You went up to Bruno.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went up to Bruno. I was at the Dick Shooter outfit right there in Bruno. I was on the range crew. And I didn't even know Iraq and Afghanistan. I didn't even know that was going on. I mean, you've been there. There's no radio, no nothing. And I was in camp. We had branded. And in there, branding starts early and go. And by the time our last calves are branded, hell, they're almost shipping time. They're big calves by the time. And so I went to camp, came out from camp, and my boss, Webby, he was like, hey, they called me Colorado. He said, hey, Colorado, are you going to stay here, or what's your plans? And I said, you're going to bury me in the horse trap. I'm never leaving. Best job I ever had. Yeah. He said, well, we got this war on. I didn't know what you... I said, who we at war with? And he said, oh, they invaded Afghanistan and all that stuff. And I said, oh, can I go to the bunkhouse? And I went to the bunkhouse. I got the radio on. And at that time, they were still reading casualty lists on the news. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to it, and it took me about 5 minutes, and I jumped in the truck and drove down to the boss's headquarters there, and I said, this is the best job I ever had. Thank you very much. I'm going to Boise. And I went to Boise, and I walked in the recruiting office, put my DD-214 on this guy's desk, and said, put me in, coach. And he's like, where did you come from? And so he's looking at my DD-214. He goes, sit down, and I started filling out all the paperwork and stuff. And then they sent me to Boise, to the MEP center there, and I'm doing all the stupid human tricks and duck walking and all that stuff. And I had just got bucked off a horse 4 days before that, hard. And so the duck walking and all that was hard, but I just sucked it up, because I couldn't show them that you're hurting because they'd be worried about you. And I went to the career counselor, and he said, we got Fort Hood, Fort Riley, or Fort Stewart. And I said, those are all mechanized units. He goes, yeah. I said, I'm a paratrooper. See right there, I'm not a mechanized guy. He goes, we got Fort Hood, Fort Riley, or Fort Stewart. I said, I want to go to 82nd or Ranger Bat or somewhere, I'm a paratrooper, and they said, we got Fort Hood, Fort Riley, or Fort Stewart. I said, I've never even seen a Bradley. And he said, Fort Hood, Fort Riley, Fort Stewart. And so I would go outside and I pace around a little bit because we used to make fun of those guys. And then I remembered Fort Hood has the 1st Cavalry Division horse detachment. And so I would turn around and walk back in there and I said, give me Fort Hood. Well, at that time, you had the 1st Cavalry Division or the 4th Infantry Division was there. And so the first obstacle was getting 1st Cav. Because when you get to Fort Hood, you go to the replacement detachment. You can go either one, Right. And I got there, and thank God I got to the 1st Cav. Nothing against 4th ID. They're great guys. But I pulled in the first day. I had my horse trailer on, my truck. And I was a buckaroo in Idaho 2 days before that. Yeah. So I pull into the Fort Hood horse detachment. Just right, that's where I went first. And I walked in there, and the first sergeant was there. He said, who are you? I said, just got orders for Fort Hood, and I want to come here and drive your mule team. He said, oh, that's a cool story. He said, go to Iraq first. I said, roger that. So then I got into the 1-5 Cav, and I'd been out of the Army 8 years. I hadn't ran across the street or did a push-up in 8 years. They didn't know that, and I showed up just like I just left the 82nd the day before. And I took my PT test the next day, maxed it. Like I said, I hadn't done any PT in 8 years and maxed my first PT test, so that was good. I was actually worried about that because one time I ever ran between the time I got out of the Army and the time I went back in the Army, if I was running, there was something chasing me, But mother cows kept me in shape.
Mama cow,
And then I went and deployed to Iraq with 1-5 Cav, and we were there a year and a half. And then when I left there, they were standing the horse platoon, they called it the horse platoon, back up. And my platoon sergeant, hell of a great man, First Sergeant Ski, we were at the Battle of Fallujah. We just fought the Battle of Fallujah in 2004. And Sergeant Major Sayatola was there, another hell of a great man. And Sergeant Ski grabbed me. He goes, you need to go to the horse unit. That's where you want to go, and that's you deserve that. And so he took me over there, and he walked up to Sergeant Major Sayatola and said, "You want this guy to be in the horse unit." And I was on the next thing smoking. That was Thanksgiving, and by New Year's Day, I was in Fort Hood, Texas.
Wow, yeah. What did you do there in Iraq? Did you see some combat?
We were in sustained combat for a year and a half, almost every day. Every day we were in sector, outside the wire, every day. If we were in the wire, it was to refit, to get some sleep. And even when we were in the wire, we were still, like, if we just come out of sector, we were on what you call QRF, Quick Reactionary Force. So if something kicked off, we were the first. We would immediately go back out because we just left. But yeah, we were in it every day.
Yeah. Did you lose some brothers?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I imagine that changes your view of the world a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. A lot of my brothers have come back from Iraq, and they're messed up pretty bad from it. Thank God I had the lifestyle to come back to, the horses and the packing and the hunting and stuff.
That helps, huh?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And you came from that. I think about cowboying in Bruno, Idaho. And you and I talked about Martin Black.
Yeah.
You were buddies with Martin. You rode and cowboyed and branded with Martin. And
yes, sir.
And you talked about getting bucked off in that country. There's lava splash up there.
Oh my God.
And there's nowhere to land.
No.
And so yeah, it's pretty tough country, but pretty good prep for battle, maybe, huh?
You bet. Yeah, that's right. Well, when I got there, they gave me the rough string. Everybody had been there a long time, and they all had colts in their string, and all of the horses that they issued me were turned out, except for the other guys as colts. And those are the handiest guys I've ever been around in my life. I mean, everybody there throws a gut line. Everybody there is is a traditional buckaroo. You know, when I got there, I was a bronc rider, and I was cowboyed all over the country. But when you go and you saddle up every morning to make a circle with these guys, these are hands. These guys are, you know, your song with a whisper really resonated with me.
You know, you talk. My buddy that ran that Sheep Creek camp, that song's about him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he was riding a couple of colts for me at the time. That's how I got up there with those guys. But yeah, so yeah, that there's a lot of that country in that song.
No, it blew me away when I heard it.
Yeah. So yeah, you get out of Iraq. You come back to the West. Go back to cowboying.
I did. When I got back from Iraq, I was at the horse unit, and my only job for the Army was driving a 4-up team of mules in an 1878 U.S. Army escort wagon. I went from being an infantry team leader to the mule skinner. That was my job title, and I had one soldier under me, Dominic Anderson, one of the greatest guys ever. I seen him bulldog a mule team that was running away. He's a tough guy, and so that's all I did. And our duty uniform was a Dickies work shirt, pair of Wranglers, ball cap, and then when we were actually doing our job in the public eye, it was the 1880s U.S. Cavalry uniform that you seen in all the John Wayne movies.
Yeah, I think maybe our perception is that, there isn't a cavalry anymore.
There's actually a lot of horse units in the Army.
Yeah.
There's the one in Fort Sill, and they're the artillery unit. They've got all the caissons. The horse detachment in Fort Hood is they got over 50 head of horses, and they got a full standing platoon. They do mounted weapons demonstrations, parades, and ceremonies all over the country.
Yeah.
Presidential inaugurations, Rose Bowl, you name it. If it's a big event, the detachment's there.
What kind of stuff did you do?
At the detachment?
Just as in the cavalry there.
So my main job was the mule skinner.
Yeah.
So I was the last guy in the Army to drive 4-up full time. When I left, Dominic took over the 4-up, but they had a pretty bad wreck. Not any of Dominic's fault, but the Army said no more 4-up. So they're just 2-up now. And I trained teams of mules there. In fact, one of the mules I trained, they retired her and gave her to me. So we've got her in my corral.
Oh man, wow.
Yeah, we go out there, and old Tina's out there every day with her U.S. brand on her shoulder.
Yeah. Wow. That must be an honor.
It is. It's a way cool thing.
Yeah. So fast forward to living in Colorado, you get a phone call from this awesome lady.
Yeah. So in my business in Colorado, I actually was home. I was home on leave when I bought it. We were close to getting out of the Army, ETSing, and this outfitting business was for sale. And so I called another buddy of mine that we rode a lot of country together with, outfitting. We pulled our resources and bought the business.
Yeah.
And then years later, we met through like an outfitting page on Facebook. It was outfitting, like people go in there and talk about everything from pack mules to guide staff, whatever, and she was needing some fly fishing guides. And I had 7 full-time employees that I couldn't always keep them busy, and so I always had guys wanting to go do something. And so I said, I got 2 guys for you. And she called me up and we met. That's how we met.
Yeah. Huh. And you just hearing her voice? Mm-hmm. Or just trading emails?
Yeah, and then seeing her on Facebook, and that's when I think she started stalking me for an attack.
I got you. Yeah, you had
pictures. I was like, ooh, I like that.
She had pretty blonde hair, and you had cool tack.
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. What year was that?
When we were just friends on Facebook.
I'd have been like 13.
We've been married 10 years now. Or 9 years.
9.
So it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah. 11.
And then you met.
So I came over to Utah to meet her because she was needing somebody to do some packing and leading trail rides and just doing the outfit and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I came over, and that was in February that we actually met face to face, because I just came over and she just showed me some of the country. And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm in. I'll come do this. And I had just gotten off of a commercial. I just did a Coors commercial. And the guy, the animal coordinator for that commercial, wanted me to come and work on a movie in Louisiana, which I didn't know at the time I was talking to her. And I took the job with Alicia, and then like 2 weeks later, the animal coordinator called me up, and he's like, "Hey, can you bring horses and mules and some guys and to do this movie as a wrangler crew?" And I was like, yeah. And then as soon as I said, yeah, I'm like, oh, I already told Alicia I was going to work. So I called her up, and I'm like, hey, she's like, if you don't go do that, you're stupid. It was really good money. But then she came down to Louisiana.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. How'd you get involved in the movies, being on set?
So outfitting in Colorado, I had a good friend, and I used to work for him. He was out of Marble, Colorado. It was Gary Hubble. He owned Out West Guides at the time, but he's also a professional photographer, and he did a lot of photo shoots for like Bushnell, Weaver Optics, ATK, Federal Premium Ammo, and all that stuff. And then he sold a lot of photos for magazines and stuff, and he's an author too. And so he would hire us just to come along and be the models, like set on your horse and glass, or this, that, and everything. And ATK had this photo shoot with a famous photographer named Lee Chose. And we were shooting for Federal and Weaver, even Filson. And so we did those photo shoots. Well, then he called me up one day and he said, "Hey, what are you doing in February on these dates?" And I said, "Nothing." Yeah. Trying not to freeze to death, Yeah. And he goes, "Hey, can you want to come and be a wrangler on another shoot?" And I said, "Hell yeah, that'd be great," because it paid good. Yeah. And so we were in Fairplay, Colorado, which is the top of the world, in February. And we get there, we got the horses, and they had They had one pack horse and 3 riding horses, and then you had 2 safety horses. Well, I didn't know it was like a commercial. I just thought it was going to be another photo shoot. And we pulled up there, and we had one actor named he was playing Mr. Coors. He was playing the actual Mr. Coors, and super nice guy, South African fella. And then nobody else could ride, and we were shooting really wide shots, and the director. So we couldn't have the safety horses close to the actors. And so the director, he said, "You got the wardrobe." "You talking to me?" "Yeah, okay." So I went over to the wardrobe, and they gave me the worst hat. It looked like a buffalo chewed up and spit it out.
Oh, man.
And they just threw these clothes on me, and this person comes running up to me. I later found out was a PA, and she says, "Fill out this paperwork." And I filled out the paperwork. What I was filling out was SAG paperwork. I didn't know what SAG paperwork was. And they Taft-Hartley'd me on the spot. On my first time ever working on a film, I got my SAG card. Wow. And made a lot of people mad. Yeah. And then so there we was, Mr. Coors, and we shot the commercial over 3 days, and then I thought that we got wrapped and that it was done, and they ran that commercial on ESP 1, 2, and 3 during like the major time slots, during like the Stanley Cup, the freaking Super Bowl, and all that stuff. And that's when I found out what a residual check was. Yeah. I had no idea. I made more on residual checks than I made actually working on the show. Yeah. It was insane. I wish they'd run that commercial again.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we call those royalties as songwriters. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Those are dream checks. You go. It's really hard to walk to your mailbox.
Yeah. Mailbox money.
Mailbox money. Yeah. So you've kind of been, I think, a bit of a mentor and sort of a liaison into that world for some of the other guys that I know. And yeah, like we know Wolfie's been on some of that stuff, and Dason
and Wolf, and my really good friend you haven't met yet, Phil Drennan. So Phil, when I was Phil, Fiddle and Phil, Reverend Dr. Phil Billy, we call him. Yeah, he actually taught me to pack. He taught me to pack. I never packed a mule ever until he showed me how. And then I just ran with it, and he's been coming out and guiding for me in Colorado forever. And now he comes out and he's guides with us in Utah and Idaho with Jesse. And
he's a great man.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite guys. I'll send Randy somewhere else and take Phil with me. You go run this
so
town.
mellow, and he's
Phil's
like
great.
having Randy.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah. Where does he lives in?
He lives in Missouri.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah.
So I went and did that first show. The first show was in Louisiana, and they were needing crew, like wranglers that they could depend on and stuff. And I called Phil, and Phil said, "Do what now?" And I'm like, "You want to come work on a movie?" He said, "Why, sure." And so he came down and liked it, had a good time. Louisiana, if you ever get a chance to go to Louisiana in the summertime, jump off a cliff first. And hope you don't survive. It was rough. And then another really good friend of mine in Tennessee, Ron Neal, we brought him in, and he liked it, and he's running with it. He's a full-on animal coordinator now, and Dason's working on a show in South Carolina with him right now, a Civil War show. Yeah.
Yeah, Dason, he's, I say, he's kind of my adopted kid, and... he's quite a guy. We'll have him on this show, of course. But I know he thinks the world of you, and you've been an awesome mentor for him. And it's amazing, that these circles, all of our, the outfitting circle and the cowboy music circle and stuff. It's all just kind of a small world, and everybody are interconnected. I've heard about you so many times and not met you till today, a couple hours ago, and it's a high honor for me to do so. But
well, it is for us as well. I mean, when we're at the trailhead packing, the radio's playing, and there's going to be
chances are real
good. Brent Hill and Dave Stamey and Gary McMahon's going to be the ones coming on the radio, and it was funny because it was like Brent's wrote our life. All your songs are our life. And we've made hoof tracks in a lot of the same places.
Yep.
Well, that's the highest honor, and really that's what I've tried to do is write the story about the real folks. Speaking of real folks, making your inroads into the movie world, you're obviously as authentic a guy as they'll ever have around. Do you have to bridge kind of a gap between what Hollywood, thinks the stereotypical Westerner is?
Sometimes. It depends on the film, and the crew. I've worked on shows where nothing was right. The weapons weren't right, the saddles weren't right, and all that stuff, and wardrobe was wrong, especially when the cavalry uniforms, if they've got, that gets under my skin. But like on some of the better stuff I've worked on, they got it all right, as far as tack and stuff and weapons and stuff. That's what I notice and care about is the authenticity of the equipment. And if, we're wranglers, and so that's our lane.
Yeah.
They can screw all the rest of it up. If the horses look right, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I've just learned to keep my mouth shut on other things because you don't want to make the wardrobe guy mad because you tell him he's got his sergeant stripes on a private's this and his officer's pants, they don't care. There's a small sect of people out there in the world that knows what's right, and they've got to produce a show they've got limited stuff sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And limited resources, always. Yeah. Yeah, what's your favorite, what's the favorite movie project you've worked on?
That's a hard one. I mean, Horizon's been awesome. I've really loved Horizon. The crew, the Wrangler crew that I'm working with on Horizon is top notch. Really, really good guys. We did Killers of the Flower Moon in Oklahoma, and we had a ball on that. Horizon's been a show that's been close to home because it's history of the West, and there's a lot of mule teams and wagons in general. I mean, we fielded over 50 wagons rolling at once on film. That's hard to do. And then this last spring we were doing cattle drive, and we had Longhorn Corriente crosses straight out of Mexico, and I think we had 750 head,
which is like herding deer.
Yeah. We had 750 head of them. We were shooting down there on the Arizona line, and we filmed on a couple different ranches, and they just shot it from every angle. We just drive the cattle. We had a chuck wagon and a bed wagon and a remuda. We had a remuda, 60 head of horses running with the herd of cattle. That was one of them days where I'm like, I can't believe I'm being paid to do this. You know?
Yeah. Horizon, I think, is the most authentic feeling Western, at least for me, probably since Open Range, Lonesome Dove, and to I really enjoyed it personally. I know.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it seems like maybe the critics were a little harsh on it, but to me, it just really authentic. It felt real.
Well, they don't realize it's the first chapter of 4 chapters.
Yeah.
You don't read a chapter of a book and put it down and forget about it, but everybody wants it right now in today's society.
I'm dying for the next one, so how's it coming?
Me and you both. I wish I can't wait we've got chapter 2 done. It's in the can. We're just waiting for the boss to release it.
Yeah. Well, I hope that happens soon, if you can arm wrestle him or something.
I'll try.
Yeah. Let me ask you, how are you a hunter? Do you like to hunt?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah. What do you like to hunt?
My favorite thing for me personally to hunt is bears. I really like hunting bears. My dream hunt is to go kill a grizzly bear. I want to kill an inland grizzly at close range.
Jesse's taking us, because that's mine too.
That's what I want to do.
And then been talking about it for a while.
And then right after that is I want a buffalo. I want a buffalo. I want a Cliffs buffalo. We see them every day when we're down there. Right, they're not those pets you see in Yellowstone. You're not going to take a selfie with one of these buffalo.
Trust me.
It was funny when Phil, the first time Phil came and worked for us in Utah, he got out. It's a long drive from Missouri, and he gets there and he unloads his mule. We get packed up and everything, and we ride down our main trail. We used to get into that canyon, and we came around the corner of the canyon, and it's a really long canyon, real wide, and there was probably 300 buffalo. And as soon as we come around the canyon, they all jumped up and took off running. Now, where else in the world are you going to see a buffalo stampede of truly wild, free-range buffalo? I mean, there's no ear tags on those buffalo. They're wild. And then you'll come around a corner, and the bulls, if they're all batched out, they posture. They're posturing from 200 yards away. Yeah. They're truly wild animals, and so that's lower 48. I want a buffalo, and I want to kill him with my Sharps rifle.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And
now you're a Utah resident. So,
yes, sir.
So you're building bonus points towards that.
It seems like you got better luck not being a resident drawing a buffalo tag. We're at the trailhead, and there's these guys from Texas drawing the damn tag with 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I think you're at 9 points, and I'm at 8 points.
Yeah.
I want that tag bad.
Yeah. I hope you get it. You talk about hunting bears, and you guys had an outfitter camp above Chalice, Idaho, top of Panther Creek, I think we talked about.
Our friend George from Wild Idaho Outfitters, that's his permit area.
Oh, gotcha.
And we've just been going up there and helping him out for spring bear, and sometimes for the late fall hunts too, if we're wrapped up in Utah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that country. I love the Middle Fork of the Salmon, and folks, the Frank Church and all that. If you haven't been there, it's hard to even describe how tough and rugged that is. We talk about that road. We were talking at lunchtime, that road that goes across the head of that drainage that leads down into Panther Creek. When you look at that from 100 yards away, you'd swear there was not a road there.
Yeah.
And then you're on it.
Yeah. In the wintertime, we went in there. The first time I ever went in there, we were doing wolf hunts in middle of winter, January. I was chained up. I had a big flatbed trailer in the back with 2 camps worth of gear and machines, and it was just hammer down and pray. We were pushing snow the whole way with the front bumper. And the whole time I'm driving, like, if I get stuck, we're screwed. Yeah. We're screwed. You're not walking out of here in this, January. You'll freeze to death. Yeah. I had a lot going on in my brain. And when that place you're talking about, I come up over that, and I was like, where's the road? Yeah. Where's the road? And Alicia's like, don't stop, and
yeah.
And then you're driving on them slide chutes, and there's an avalanche going to come off of that. It's a different ball game up there.
Yeah, it doesn't make me feel so bad knowing you were slightly nervous, because I was shaking in my boots.
You couldn't have drove a pin in my butt with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. So, what's next? What's coming up? You got some movies coming up?
Right now things are slow. We're kind of all sitting on pincushions waiting on Horizon 3 to kick off, start filming that. Yeah. There's a few small things that we've been contacted lately about going and doing here in Utah. And then there's another show that I can't talk about that would be a really big one that we're really excited about, and I hope we get it.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah. How do you see the Western movie? You know, there's a little resurgence here, and you know, me and Andy Hedges, you know, cowboy songster from Lubbock, Texas. Andy's quite a guy. He'll be on this show at some point. But we talk about this little resurgence, maybe on the heels of Yellowstone. I don't know what it is, you know. Our buddy Coulter Wall and Corb Lund, you know, have had these huge, massive followings. And, of course, we think it's maybe just because people are wanting authenticity again. But it does seem like there's a little resurgence in the Western movie world.
Yeah, thank God.
Thanks probably to Kevin Costner a little bit and guys like you. But what do you see in the future for that?
I think it's gonna go for a while. Hopefully, I really do. I think the American people and the world in general are in love with the West, and sometimes they're in love with the myth of the West and not the real West. You know, honestly, I've never watched a single episode of Yellowstone. Got to work on 1923, and I really enjoyed that show. It was a lot of fun. It seemed pretty authentic, you know, as far as the way they portraying everything in 1923. Me and Dason and Phil Billy, we went up there. We had 2 teams of mules, 2 freight wagons on it, and really great show to work on.
Yeah. Dason, he had a little camera time on 1923. Dason did early on, I think, in the first.
Oh yeah, in the first season, he did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, we were proud of him. Hooper, Utah boy, Dason Ward. Yeah.
But Utah has really good filming incentive right now, so we're hoping that because of that, you know, the film industry kind of follows the states around that has the best film incentive, and Utah's really on board right now.
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing a lot of stuff going on in Utah.
Costner has this studio going in southern Utah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's down there right by the airport in St. George. We filmed there a lot. Mm-hmm. And they was breaking ground on it last spring. Mm-hmm. And we filmed right there by where they were breaking ground. I think it's like 4,000 acres. Mm-hmm. Like they talk about the back lot at Hollywood, you know, how great that place is. This is 100 times bigger than that.
Yeah. Huh.
So they'll be able to do a lot of different things there.
Yeah. Do you see, I mean, is this a good thing for the West, do you think? I mean, obviously, I can't afford a building lot in Swan Valley, Idaho, but
I think it is. I mean, I don't see Utah turning into California over it. I see St. George maybe turning into California over it, but it's definitely, I mean, people want to go horseback riding on trail rides because they watched Yellowstone. I mean, geez, you wouldn't believe how many of the people we take on a trail ride, and the first words out of their mouth is Yellowstone this and Yellowstone that. So I would say it's been good for us. You know, everybody wants to be a cowboy until it's time to do cowboy stuff.
Yeah, until they spend a winter in Vernal Valley.
That's
yes,
right.
sir.
Yeah, it's cold there.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, I know you and Jesse have had some harrowing adventures.
We have.
And you know, in the other episode, we talked about when Alicia's sitting in the hospital with a busted femur, and everybody needs a buddy like Jesse. I mean, talk about a true friend.
He is. He really is. I was we were in Oklahoma, and I was working on Killers of the Flower Moon, and my brother-in-law called me and said, Randy, Alicia's really hurt. And at that time, the word we had was she had a broken pelvis, a broken leg, and maybe a fractured back. And it was a while before we got like the real story, how, you know, the extent of her injuries. Immediately I start getting on the phone trying to book a flight out of Oklahoma City or Dallas and nothing was moving. And I'm like, how am I going to get to freaking Utah now, right now?
This was during COVID.
And it was during COVID. I was about to just get in my truck and burn up the road. And then I thought, Jesse Tapman's in Texas right now.
Jesse
and he's
Tapman.
got an airplane. So I called Jesse, and he goes, I'll be there in the morning. Where's the closest landing strip? And I said, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And so Phil Billy hauled me over there to the airport. We had a studio there. We had a soundstage on that airfield. And so we drove over there, parked at the studio, walked across, and the Cub lands, and he fueled up, and we jumped in, and we were gone.
Yeah. And quite a ride.
Oh yeah, it was an experience. I didn't have a lot of experience in small aircrafts, but the only ones I have ever been in, I jumped out of. So
Yeah, right. Yeah. And you thought you might jump out of this one a couple of times.
I was wondering why I didn't go buy a secondhand parachute at the Army surplus store before I got in that plane. But
Yeah.
Jesse's a hell of a pilot.
Yeah. And you guys have made many miles riding together, and I hope, God willing, you'll make many more miles.
Yes, sir.
And we've had a lot of fun packing and riding.
Yeah. And hopefully you got room for a dude like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always got room for you.
Randy, we appreciate your service.
Oh, well, thank you. It was an honor and a privilege, and I always tell people, thanks for being the kind of American it's worth serving for.
Well, it means the world to us, and we don't take our freedom for granted. And we thank you folks again for joining us here at In the Wild Outdoors. I don't know how we're going to get better than these two stories we've just had. But keep coming back. We'll keep trying. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You can hunt or ride with Alicia and Randy Melton. I recommend you do so. Go to flyinjoutfitters.com. Drop them a line. Give them a call. They're going to ride all summer. You can find my music, BrenHill.com, BrenHill Music, on the social sites, and I'm on all of the streaming sites. Got a brand new single, by the way, which is a tribute to another one of our heroes, Casey Fields. It's called Rodeo Blood. I recorded it here, kind of co-produced and engineered by one of our sound techs here, Tyler Casperson. His dad is the producer of the show. We thank him. And go to saddlehornoutfitters.com to book a real Western backcountry adventure with the one and only Jesse Tapman.
And thanks, everybody. You can go to inthewildoutdoors.com, drop us a message, or share your hunting stories. If you want us to interview somebody, please put that on there as well. Also, go to our website and enter into our hunt draws. I think there's 4 of them on there right now. Mm-hmm. We're giving away an archery hunt this fall, and then we got a rifle elk hunt next year, and we're going to continue to put some on there.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next time on In the Wild Outdoors.
Thanks.